So Avatar Frontiers of Pandora looks like a pretty solid game to me, but although I am really excited for it, there are a few things I'm worried may drag it down at the end of the day. So today I wanted to go over all of my concerns when it comes to Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. There is plenty more Avatar content on the way, so if you guys are new to the channel and you are interested in the game, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. Now, the first concern that I have is actually kind of hypocritical in a way, because I'm a big fan of the Far Cry series and I kind of want this game to be pretty similar to that. But my biggest concern is that the game is actually going to be too much like Far Cry. Now, like I said, that's not really a bad thing. I'm a big fan of Far Cry, especially the older ones. Far Cry 3 is probably in my top 15 or 20 games of all time. But I do think this game needs to be somewhat different outside of just the universe that it's set in. If they make essentially an exact replica of Far Cry and the only difference is that the game is set on Pandora rather than set on planet Earth like Far Cry, I don't think that that is a big enough differentiation. And I really do fear that it will feel essentially too samey when it comes to being similar to Far Cry. The game is going to be only on next gen, or I guess current gen consoles. Those being the Xbox Series consoles, the PS5, and then obviously PC as well. And because of that, they really should be trying to push the boundaries. We're sort of entering that era of gaming. We've just seen it with Spider-Man, where things can be really high quality and really polished now. I think at the beginning of this generation, you can always have that sort of fallback that, yeah, games can be a little bit buggy and a little bit undercooked because it is a new platform and all that kind of thing. But we are far enough in now that I think games really need to be pushing the boundaries again. And I do hope that they do that with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And like I said, I hope they don't make it too similar to Far Cry. I think having the general, I guess, concept of the game being similar to Far Cry is completely fine. And like I said, if anything, I actually kind of want it to be like that because I think that is a perfect setting, or I guess a perfect style of game when it comes to an Avatar game. But yeah, like I said, making it too similar, I think that is going to be a detriment. And hopefully they have a lot of stuff to sort of differentiate it from just being a Far Cry game with an Avatar skin. Now, another concern that I do have is to do with the skill tree. All of the people who pretty much went to Sweden to play the game early, they all seem to say the same thing. The skill tree seemed to lack a little bit of depth. Not to say that it was genuinely bad or anything like that, but it didn't really have anything awesome in there. And most of the upgrades were pretty much just slight improvements to what you already have, rather than being completely new skills, completely new weapons and stuff like that. And I do think that that is going to be a very big downfall of the game if we can't really upgrade our Na'vi character and get a lot stronger as the game goes on. Now, from what I know of the skill tree, it seems as though it isn't going to add anything new. So everything that we have at the start of the game, and I'm sure in the first, 5 to 10 hours, there'll be certain things that we unlock. But for the most part, the skill tree doesn't actually unlock things in terms of new skills. All it's going to be doing is slightly upgrading what we already have. So we may get a little bit more health, we may deal a little bit more damage with certain weapons. And that is pretty much what the skill tree is going to be improving, rather than, like I said, unlocking completely new skills, unlocking different options and gadgets and stuff like that. And I think if they do go down that path, that is a big missed opportunity, because we're in a universe here where they can kind of do anything. There's obviously much less limitations when it comes to an Avatar game compared to if we are just playing as a regular human or something like that. And so I hope that is not the case. But like I said, from all the people that I've watched and talked to about their playtime so far when they went to Sweden and got hands-on with the game at Massive Entertainment, a lot of those people were saying that the skill tree does seem to lack a little bit of depth, and that has definitely got me very concerned. Now, another concern that I've got, and this is actually really ironic, is that I'm worried this game is going to be a little bit too easy to get lost in. Now, something with Ubisoft games is that their UI is generally way overboard. It's something that at this point is pretty much a meme within the gaming community, that when you're playing a Ubisoft game, there is just way too much on your screen. It's so cluttered with different UI and different indicators and markers showing you exactly what you need to do. And although it seems like they've actually really toned that down in this game and pretty much listened to everyone's feedback, from what I've heard, they've actually gone a little bit overboard with it, to where it is pretty hard to actually find where you need to be. And I think that that is a genuine concern if they've gone too far when it comes to removing the UI. I think having a minimalistic UI is always a good thing when it comes to a single player game, but you need to have all the, required information and make that readily available for the players. We need to know where we need to be. at least when it comes to the main path and stuff like that. If you've got side missions where it doesn't really tell you exactly what you need to do, that's completely fine. A bit of exploration is always a good thing. But from what a lot of people were saying, even in the first mission, and this is the main storyline mission that they were playing, a lot of people were getting lost and they just simply could not find where they needed to be. And even when they got close, it still left them a little bit confused as to what they needed to do. So I'm pretty concerned about that, because obviously we don't want to be spending hours just looking around trying to find the next area to go to for the main story. I'm all for having minimal UI, and I think that is a good thing. I've been calling for that for so long now when it comes to Ubisoft games, but I do hope they haven't gone too overboard with that, because you can definitely go too far in the other direction and have not enough information to where it is pretty much frustrating to even play the game, simply because you don't know what you need to be doing. Now, the last thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is worrying about the game being a bit too repetitive. Now, I obviously can't speak on the main story. We haven't seen much of that, and I don't imagine the main story is going to be repetitive at all. If anything, the storyline that they kind of laid out, it actually sounds really interesting. But in terms of the side content that we've seen, a lot of this stuff is just crafting and getting certain plants and stuff like that, pretty much going around and harvesting certain things. There's then also the RDA outposts, which I won't lie, they look really fun, but if they're just the same thing every single time, that will get a little bit boring. It used to be pretty much the same in the Far Cry games, that all of the outposts, although they're fun, they're all pretty much the same as each other. And then really the only other side content that we have seen is kind of the smaller stuff, like freeing an animal from a trap, for example. Little things like that, yeah, maybe if they're all completely different from each other, those things are fine. But I've seen now multiple of those exact same sort of missions that seem to be in different locations, and it makes me worried that all of the side content is going to be pretty much repetitive. And I think that will be a huge detriment to the game if the only other side content that we have to do outside of the main story is all just repeating the exact same thing over and over. For those who don't know, this game doesn't actually have New Game Plus. At least it won't at launch. Who knows down the line, because there are plans for DLC and stuff, so there may eventually be a New Game Plus, but at least at launch there is not going to be New Game Plus. And for me, that means that they've got to really nail the side content. It has to be replayable. It needs to have, I guess, some draw to it after you finish the main story, or even if you're trying to, I guess, extend the main story and you don't want to finish it just yet, there needs to be plenty of stuff to do. But if it's all just the same thing, then I fear that that will get a little bit boring and a little bit repetitive. So obviously it is hard to tell. We've only seen a couple of hours worth of gameplay, because the people who went to Sweden, they only actually got to play for about 2 hours. So that is obviously a very small sample size, and they were very early on in the game. So maybe it opens up a hell of a lot once we're, 5 to 10 hours in. But just judging from what we've seen so far, that is a concern of mine, that it is going to be a little bit too repetitive. And I definitely hope that that is not the case. But those are pretty much my main concerns when it comes to Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts as well, so be sure to let me know down in the comments section. With that being said though, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.